I came to Medjugorje in 1989, not for any religious beliefs or reasons. I came because it was to be my last holiday with my wife Anne. I had a very serious illness called Crohn's disease, which I got in 1977. And because of the illness, I had to give up my first love, which was soccer. I'd been playing Premier League soccer in Ireland from the age of 16 and a half. Played against Pelé, George Best, a lot of the great soccer players from Europe, and I loved my football. So in 1977 along came this illness, and it plagued my life for 14 years. And in that period of 14 years, I had 10 major surgeries. And the last surgery was on the 7th of January 1989, and the doctors gave me approximately 14 weeks to live. So by the time I came to Medjugorje, the clock had ticked all the way down to 2 weeks. As I said, I didn't come for any religious reason. I came in the presence of a very special priest from Chicago called Father Peter Mary Rookey. And Father Rookey's got great intercessionary powers of healing. And in the graveyard behind the Church of St. James, through the intercession of Father Rookey, I had an instant physical healing. But that really wasn't the miracle of Medjugorje. The miracle of Medjugorje for me took place 2 days later, up on the hill of apparitions that the local people called Podburdo. And it was there that I'd heard people talking about peace. And I needed peace in my life. For 8 years prior to coming to Medjugorje, I hadn't been inside a Catholic church. And there were two reasons. The first reason was to do with my eldest boy, Ken, who was born with an incurable illness called cystic fibrosis. And the second reason was because my own illness was getting progressively worse over the years. And I felt that God had given me really a bad deal. I felt that he had stacked the cards against me, and I got angry with this. But how the healing took place was, after the physical healing, we used to sit outside the Church of St. James. I could not get enough of Medjugorje. And we listened to people talking about where they had experienced peace. And as I said, the peace was up on the hill of apparitions. So I asked Anne if she would help me to climb the mountain. I arrived in Medjugorje 99 pounds in weight. So even though I'd had the physical healing, I still was feeling rather weak. So we set off from the Church of St. James, and we walked through the vineyards up to the base of the mountain at Podburdo. And then we climbed steadily up, and then we turned into the right into a big clearing on the side of the mountain. And there were so many people on the mountain that we had to sort of come halfway back down the mountain again. And Anne sat on a huge rock beside me. And I just stood there looking into the valley below, which is a lot different than it is today. And I just kept focusing on the Church of St. James because that's all that was in the valley at the time. And I tried to pray, and I couldn't. And then I tried to say the Hail Mary, and then I couldn't. I tried to say the Our Father, and I couldn't. And at that point, Anne, who was sitting on the rock beside me, she was observing me. And she saw that I was getting a bit agitated. She didn't realize that I couldn't pray. And she stood to speak with me. And as she did, I just caught a glimpse of her out of the corner of my left eye. And I instinctively turned to her. I outstretched my arms, and I embraced her. And I apologized to her for all the hurt that I'd caused her, all the pain and suffering that had caused our children, our parents, and our friends. And she started to cry. And as she started to cry, she threw her arms around my neck. And because of that little gesture of love, I started to cry. And we cried in one another's arms for about 10 minutes. And when I stopped crying, I had this amazing, amazing peace inside me. I had this peace that seemed to allow David Parks to live with David Parks. So these two events in Medjugorje totally transformed my whole life. I went back home, and 6 months later, I went back singing with the band that I had in the Burlington Hotel in Dublin. And then in 1993, I felt that the Lord was asking me to do something for him. I didn't know what it was, but it was something. So I gave up the job. I owed the bank an awful lot of money, but the best way to repay the bank is to give up your job. So I gave it up and started working for the Lord. And the first Marian conference I ever did was in California. But then in June of 93, during the war, I came to Medjugorje to do a documentary video on Medjugorje during the war. And it was there I met a Dr. Sam who ran this conference in Pittsburgh. And he asked me to come and sing the Ave Maria, which I did. And then through another course of event where there was a man whose wife was expecting their first baby, there were complications, he couldn't come. And the organizer of the conference asked me if I could fill in his slot for an hour, which I did. And I sang the Ave Maria. And there were people there who worked around the America, and they invited me to come and participate in their Marian conferences. So from there I went on to MC most of the Marian conferences in America. And then in 2001, my eldest boy, Ken, who was born with cystic fibrosis, was going through a real tough time health-wise. And an opportunity came for me to work here in Medjugorje, which I've done since 2001. It's been an incredible joy. Medjugorje has changed over the 10 years that I've been working here, strange to say. But the amazing part about it is that once you step onto the grounds of the church, or you move onto the mountain, the Apparition Hill or Cross Mountain, you can still feel that peace. That peace has not gone away. So people would often come and say, oh, I haven't been here for 8 years. It's gone a little commercial, but that's only to be expected, because when people come, they want to bring home little gifts. They want to bring home little pieces of Catholic memorabilia that might help somebody along the way who is struggling. So that doesn't concern me. It doesn't bother me in the least, because once I know that once I step onto the holy ground, that it is still holy.